Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Weird House. I am Nick Boddick, and I am here with this gentleman, Mr. Matthew M. Bartlett. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Not too bad. Excited to talk to you again.
Yeah.
I've been going back through since I saw the ad you posted for I believe it's the 2023 omnibus of, I think it's the WXXT. I
Yeah,
think
2022. Yep.
2022, that's it, yeah. I've been going back through the 2021 version
Yes.
that I do have, which I love. It's somewhere over here. Um, and I just kind of want to talk to you about the origins of Leeds, Massachusetts. Where did Leeds come from? What brought that about?
When I first started writing the stories that are in my first book, Gateways to Abomination, I was writing them on LiveJournal in '04, and I started off describing driving through Leeds, and in reality, Leeds is a small village within the city of Northampton, Massachusetts. Um, and so I ended up somehow using Leeds as a stand-in for all of Northampton. In other words, Leeds is my fictional version of Northampton, rather than in reality where it's just this little village. And I wanted to use a kind of a wooded, heavily wooded area, as a lot of the first stories took place in and around forests. But Leeds actually, in reality, it turns out isn't really that heavily forested. Uh, but yeah, I like Leeds, and if I probably would have otherwise used, I don't know, Chesterfield or Williamsburg, and those don't have the same kind of. I like Leeds as a one syllable town name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And the cult. Where have you drawn inspiration blah, 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 inspiration from for the cult that populates Leeds?
When I first started writing the stories, it was supposed to be radio broadcasts from beyond the grave, from the dead. And as I continued along with it, I ended up making it more like the deceased occultists and people of that nature who lived in Leeds at the time of its founding. And in reality, Northampton had a spiritualist community in it in the early days. So I kind of took a little inspiration from that, and kind of turned it darker, made it more of a weird cultist thing than a spiritualist society and stuff like that. So it kind of developed organically as I was writing, that I switched over from making it about ghost stories to more black magic and stuff like that. And a lot of that is because the city of Northampton always it looks, if you squint your eyes, it looks exactly as it did in the 1800s. The only thing that's different in the downtown are the signs and the facades and all that. So it was very easy to picture, you know, this strange Massachusetts city in black and white with horses and carriages going up and down the street. And I wrote most of these while living there, and so it just took daily inspiration in the old buildings and
For
architecture.
for sure. What more kind of broadly then, where I guess when you started writing, what have been your biggest inspirations as a writer, or not necessarily inspiration, but like influences, like writers you've drawn from, movies that you saw that really kind of formed I guess, I kind of want to say like atmosphere of the way you write, because there's a very distinct kind of feel to your writing that I don't know. It feels specific. I don't know. I'm explaining this extremely poorly. The question I'm
I'll
trying to ask,
probably
but
I'll probably answer poorly as well. At the time I was writing most of my first book, I hadn't read a lot of contemporary horror fiction. So what I had read and what I was immediately influenced and inspired by was the usual suspects, Lovecraft. I had just begun reading Ligotti. I think at the time I was reading, I'd started reading Robert Aikman, and I combined those with there's a radio monologuist, or there was a radio monologuist on the West Coast called Joe Frank, and he had these very strange radio shows. Some of them were like plays, radio plays. Some of them were these kind of strange monologues with looped electronic music playing in the background, and some of them were sort of introspective and about the fear of death and things like that, and others of them were more absurdist and strange. And so those influences combined into my writing at the beginning. Those, and then you add the sort of eeriness, the natural eeriness of New England and Northampton in particular.
Gotcha, for sure. And as you've been, as you've developed as a writer, I guess who do you read currently? Like what are you reading right now? Like if what's
Okay.
that?
I go back and forth between old anthologies that have Lovecraft in them and people like that. C.M. Eddy, Robert Bloch, and then contemporary. I read Laird Barron. I'm a huge fan of Nathan Ballingrud, John Paget, Kurt Favre, Richard Gavin, um, John Langan. These folks, who can teach you a lot, I think, about writing, and I incorporate. Um, I try to be as good as they are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was starting off, as I said, I was not reading any contemporary horror fiction, and when I started to, um, I was pleasantly surprised to find. Um, I had a Borders bookstore near me, and I would go there and pick out 8 or 10 horror books and bring them back to a little table in the coffee shop. And I just never nothing. I didn't like any of it. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to. I wanted to read more horror. And then one day, this Borders bookstore had a Thomas Ligotti book, and suddenly, you pick that up after putting down, some sort of contemporary slasher or something like that, and you immediately see there's something different going on, and something um, more almost poetic, or just the writing, the level and the quality of the writing is so high, um, and that's what resonated with me and what inspired me, I think, to aim for that level. And it's great to see that there are contemporary writers um, writing at that high level as the ones I mentioned, and dozens others I probably haven't thought of. Gemma Files, S.P. Miskowski, um, just a lot of great writers out there right now.
You just listed literally like if you were to open up my iPad right now, it's all entries from literally every author you just named, and yourself included.
Yeah, no, there's some great people working. It's a great time to be writing. It's a great time to be a reader of horror fiction.
Definitely.
I think there was kind of a heyday of weird and strange fiction within the past bunch of years, and right now I think that it's tilting more towards the extreme and splatterpunk as far as what's getting attention, but where that's not necessarily my sort of not where my interest lies. It's just great to see horror doing so well, and a lot of those folks are my friends, and I can appreciate what they do.
For sure. Yeah, I feel the same way. I've always been, excuse me, just so the movie a perfect example of how I feel on this topic. You know the movie Hereditary?
Yeah.
Everybody loves that movie. And I think personally, I'll just get it out of the way. I think it is very overrated as a horror film. I think it is a masterfully made film from a technical standpoint. I think it's almost flawless. But I'm very glad that it did as well as it did because it pushed the genre forward, and I love anything that I guess just builds up horror more. I just Horror has become such a part of like me that it just makes me so happy whenever anything elevates it even more.
Yeah, and I think I like that one a bit more than you did. I think, and the funny thing is that even the people who like it, for some reason, don't like the ending. Whereas I think the ending is like this perfect symphonic level of just like utter bizarre horror. And But yeah, I mean that that aside, I agree with what you're saying. It's very good to see stranger horror movies out there that aren't just you know these sort of blue filtered generic horror movies that just bore the hell out of you. But you've got
Yeah.
now Terrified, and what's the new one that everyone has been talking about? Um, where Evil Lurks. Is that right?
I
Something like that.
believe so.
Yeah,
Yes, that sounds familiar.
that was really great
I haven't
as
seen that
well.
one yet.
Yeah, get yourself in front of that television. And
I
yeah,
will.
there's a lot. I mean, um, yeah, it's good to see movies doing daring and different things.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of people, and I'm in this, really like those bizarre '80s horror movies where they were just all over the place and very sort of lurid and um, and not necessarily the slashers, but just the really really weird stuff, the Stuart Gordon stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
um, just just out there, daring, different, inventive horror.
Yeah. Stuart Gordon, was he Reanimator?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
and From Beyond and
Right.
Dagon. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, all those old Lovecraft adaptations, yeah.
yeah.
Um yeah, it's weird that like and I get why, but you never really see true Lovecraft adaptations as such.
No, they always have to make it strangely contemporary or try to put more of a plotted framework on top of it that doesn't always work. Yeah, it's a. I think it's difficult. It must be difficult. I mean, in my head, I've never written it down, but in my head, I have like the perfect screenplay for Lovecraft's Rats in the Walls.
Ah,
I know how to do that movie. You know what I mean? And I don't think anyone will ever do it the way that I think it should be done if it ever does get done. Um, but yeah, it's. I think people try too hard when adapting Lovecraft, and they don't want to lose people with the weirdness. And I think to me, the more successful Lovecraft adaptation would be the more faithful, as unintuitive as that is. Um, I just think that that would work. It doesn't always work with every writer, with adapting every writer, but with Lovecraft, I think it would serve the movie to
for sure.
hew a little closer to the and don't add contemporary dialogue, and
Mhm.
and all that nonsense.
I agree. Like Lovecraft definitely it has the feel of the time and place that it was written. I feel
Yeah,
like and that it's very specific to that location and that time period and if you were
yeah.
to make a like I in my opinion the best Lovecraft adaptation has been did you see Cabinet of Curiosities?
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
the not Dreams in the Witch Pickman's Model.
Pickman's model. I can't agree with you there. I didn't. It
No?
didn't work for me.
See, and I
Was
know
that
they
the one that Crispin Glover was in?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And I know they changed stuff, but like I felt that they really captured kind of like the madness of everything that was going on in there. And
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to
I
give that another look. We've got a cat intruding on the video here, so hopefully he won't knock the phone over.
oh
Um, Sorry. Yeah. So, but a lot of Cabinet of Curiosities was fantastic, and they definitely got a lot of the look and feel of old horror and weird fiction. The rats, the one with the rats.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a
The
Kuttner
grave.
story,
Yeah.
Graveyard Rats. Yeah, phenomenally done. Um, and but to me, the most successful Lovecraft. Yep, there goes the phone. Yeah.
Cats,
Um,
man.
yeah, I tell you, the um, the most successful one I've seen is Whisperer in Darkness, by the H.P. Lovecraft Film Society, I believe it's
Mm-hmm.
called.
That's
Um,
is that the silent film?
no, they did Call of Cthulhu, which is a silent
That's
film.
what it was. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but their Whisperer in Darkness was, to me, pretty faithful to the source material, and black and white, atmospheric, good dialogue, good effects for a very low budget project, and the Miskatonic University scenes were beautiful, and they were filmed very near where I live at. I'm going to forget, in South Hadley, the college, Mount Holyoke College.
Okay.
Um, yep, that is worth seeking out. I own a copy. I think it's probably the best one that I've seen. I'll give Pickman's Model another look, because when you first see something, you have
Yeah.
expectations and sort of hopes for what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I'll definitely give that another look.
I do think that if they gave Guillermo del Toro the reins to do a feature length adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness, I think he would do it justice.
Yeah, I think he would as well. Yeah,
And
he
I
would
know
be.
that he's had his eye on that for years, and
Yeah,
there's always update and then nothing for another 3 4 years, and then an update that means nothing and nothing for another couple of years, and it's just make it happen.
yeah, it'll be a pleasant surprise if it ever actually does.
Yeah. On the topic of not necessarily Lovecraft adaptations, but just Lovecraftian filmmaking, there have been a lot of really good uh, Lovecraftian films I feel that have come out in the last like decade or so that have kind of captured the feel, if not the actual, like the properties within the Cthulhu
Hmm.
mythos and all that. Like The Endless by Benson
Yep,
and Moorhead. That is one of
yep.
my all-time favorite movies. And that's the more I think about it, and I'm thinking about it right now, like that's I think that might be in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I
I'm
can see that.
I might
Yeah,
have just updated my list.
yeah, yeah. I recently bought that one. Very slowly, I buy my top tier movies.
I do the
And
same thing.
yeah, and yeah, they have a very interesting feel and creativity to their movies that it makes them very worthy of rewatching too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that all their stuff connects in
Yes.
either very tangential or very direct ways sometimes, and yeah, I love what they're doing. And
Yeah.
it's cool.
I think Resolution was the first one I saw by them, and when I saw The Endless, I didn't know that it was by the same people.
Hmm.
And when it circled into the plot of the other movie, it was like I felt like now I have to stop, watch Resolution again, and then
Oh,
restart The Endless. You know what
I
I mean?
did the same thing,
With that
dude.
in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
And those guys have been getting really big, been getting involved with really big franchises. Like they've done work for like Marvel now.
Mm.
I want to say Star Wars too, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's like get them out of that and back into their own
hey,
stuff.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But
Unless it brings them money that allows them to do their more personal projects.
yeah,
In
for
that case,
sure.
God bless them. But
Yeah, I just well, what I was gonna say is like they did a couple episodes of Moon Knight, and
um,
they definitely brought their like signature weirdness to it, and it was just so cool to see that like they didn't really get suffocated by like the Marvel machine, and
right,
it's
right,
very much a Benson and Moorhead episode or two of Moon Knight, which I thought was awesome.
okay.
Another one is I'm sure you've seen it, Mandy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
I That's one of those movies where if I can't think of anything to watch, that's usually what pops into my head first thing to watch.
Yeah, and that's who's the filmmaker is Panatos, Cosmos Panatos, I think.
Cosmato, yeah.
Yeah, and he did Beyond the Black Rainbow
Mhm.
and one of the Cabinet of Curiosities episodes. In my mind, the best one. Although I won't be able to think of the name of it at the moment. But
Yep,
uh,
I also can't think of it, but I know which one you're
yeah,
talking about.
a phenomenal piece. I rewatch that from time to time. It's just yeah, I really like his particular vision. Um, and I'm always very interested to see where he goes and what he does next.
Me too. He has another I think he has another film done. I can't remember what it is exactly, but I
Mm.
think they're just waiting on distribution. And he's one of those filmmakers that I will watch whatever he puts out as soon as he
Mm.
puts it out, regardless
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
plot or anything.
Right.
Um, all right, so shifting directions a little bit, thinking about all the different, I guess, kind of horror playgrounds, be it Camp Crystal Lake or Haddonfield, Illinois, Newt, Texas. If you could play in any other horror playground, if you could write a story set in another fictional universe or in another franchise, where would you go? What would you do?
I would like to do, and this is going to sound, and this is just off the top of my head. I might give a different answer if I thought about it for a while, but off the top of my head, I think and this is not popular among a lot of my contemporaries, but the movie Scream, I really, really liked. I thought it had a lot of atmosphere, some humor, some strangeness. I liked the second one as well, and I think everything kind of plummeted after that. And I would love to sort of take that over and do something supernatural with it, um, like just completely rework the look of it, and just add like a supernatural element, like the um, the killer is undead now or something like that, and yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I think a lot about the atmosphere of the first movie in particular, and yeah, I think I would. I'd like to mess around there. As much as I love the Halloween, the first Halloween, the second one, and the third one, which had nothing to do with any of it.
Yeah.
I don't like the rest of any of those, and I think that's pretty much a played out concern. Friday the 13th, I never really cottoned to all that much. I appreciate its sort of importance in uh, horror history. um, but yeah, I would like to do something just take Scream and make it weird.
For sure, for sure. It always seemed very ripe for having a supernatural element to it. Like
Yeah,
it's like I think I said this on a different podcast before, but it always felt like Scream was written as having a supernatural element, and then at the last second they decided to take it out and make it all
yeah,
like human based or whatever.
right.
So yeah, no, I feel you on that, and I also have never been a big fan of like Friday the 13th. Same with you. I definitely respect the importance it has to the genre, but it just and I kind of disagree with you on Halloween. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place here.
Oh yeah, no, it's fine.
I what do you think about like Rob Zombie's films?
I only saw the first one, which I hated with an intense passion.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, sorry to say, it just I didn't like giving the like just sort of pasting on that sort of uh, backstory and Rob Zombie's aesthetic to it. It just didn't. To me, it was tone deaf. It missed everything that was good about the original. I just didn't like it, and I've been told that the second one was better. And every once in a while, I think I should check that out and see what it's about. The only movie, probably not a surprise, the only Rob Zombie movie I really really liked was Lords of Salem,
Love Lords of
because
Salem.
it wasn't your typical. Rob Zombie thing. There was like
Mm-hmm.
this sort of influence there of who did Lair of the White Worm? Who was that director? Um,
Uh,
I won't think of it, but anyways, there was he was inspired by different things there, and I liked his sort of doing something different than kind of like the
Ken Russell.
yeah, thank you, Ken Russell.
Yeah,
There was that influence in there, and I'd like to see him follow that a little more. And if he'd applied that sort of thing to his Halloweens, I might have been a little more interested. But you know, it's a big horror is a big tent. You know, we can't all like the same stuff.
for
So
sure, for sure.
yeah.
That's why I never get mad when it's crazy. I was talking to Philip Fracassi about this last week. It's social media has gotten to the point where, and for people who listen to this, I don't mean to rehash what I talked about for the last episode, but like it's gotten to the point where you can't not like something, but you also can't like something. Like if you say, "Oh, I really liked Hereditary," you'll get 10 people being like, "Wow, you like that? You have such shitty taste. You're a piece of shit. Kill yourself." And if you say, "I don't like Hereditary," "Wow, you have horrible taste. How could you not like this brilliant movie? You're a piece of shit. Kill yourself."
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a bit much. I mean, and I even catch myself like if somebody says they like something I thought was terrible, I might go in and be like, I thought that was terrible. But it's
mm-hmm.
never kind of in the context of you're a huge jerk or whatever. And I
Yeah,
also I think there's room for that kind of discussion, but it's rarely respectful on social media,
yeah,
and so it's gotten to the point where you can't sort of depart from the point of view of the original poster without being accused of sort of trying to wreck someone's good time. But
yeah,
I think it's interesting in the spirit of discussion to talk about the our differences in what we like and don't like. Like I'm I'm probably one of like three people out of thousands upon thousands of horror creators who hated House of Usher. Mike Flanagan's like couldn't even. I thought it was miserably bad, and so whenever someone posts about it now, I refrain from going into the post and saying like, "What could you possibly have liked about that?" So occasionally, I'll post my own thing about it just to blow off a little steam. Um, and yet, on the other hand, I really like Flanagan's Midnight Mass.
yes,
I think he's better if he sticks to his own ideas rather than like mining classic works and then sort of um, ruining them is a bit harsh, but like I don't like what he did with Haunting of Hill House,
no,
and it had its moments. It had some actually some really effective stuff in it. But I just kind of wish like he pulled back on the references, called it something else, you know, and kind of let his own ideas run without like lashing them to this classic work. And I know I'm in the minority on this. I'm reminded of it frequently when I'm on social media. Social media is probably ultimately it tends towards the unhealthy and unhelpful, but there's also such a wonderful ability to connect with consumers and creators of horror that I think ultimately that when we're at our best, that outweighs the kind of people jumping all over each other about these things like it's important.
for sure. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. It definitely it has its uses for sure, and
Yeah.
it's there. I've met a lot of incredible people and had a lot of extremely beneficial conversations and just dialogues all over it. And but yeah, it's just the concept of subjectivity is just waning every day. It
Yeah.
seems.
Yeah. That's
Uh,
true.
yeah. So kind of to circle back a bit to Legati before. So you are, as you said, very influenced by Legati in numerous ways. What was the first Legati you read?
The book that was in that Borders that I talked about was Shadow at the Bottom of the World,
Hmm.
and I think the first thing I looked at when I picked it up, I'm going to forget the name of the story, but I know early on in there was the Last Feast of Harlequin, which
Yes.
is sort of peak Legati for me. And but what really I, I find that I don't as much like some of his earlier work as much as I like what is in Tedro Grotesco.
Yes.
Um, My work is not yet done, um, and the Spectral Link. Those to me are like just up there, with just some of the best. Never mind horror fiction or weird fiction, just some of the best fiction I've ever read. Um, yeah, yeah, just what a unique voice.
Yeah. So on that note, the Spectral Link.
Hmm.
That's the one that has the two novellas, correct?
Yeah, the small
So
people. Go ahead.
the Small People is the first Legati story I ever read.
Is it really?
Yeah. I remember I was working the late shift at a catering job waiting for this wedding to be over, and I sat in the lobby of this wedding venue and I read this story, and I have never there's very few stories that have ever given me like a physical, like a reaction that I could actually jot down the physical sensations I was feeling at the time. And The
Uh-huh.
Small People is one of them. I have no idea what that story was trying to say. I can't tell if like I've read pretty much all the Legati I can get my hands on since then, and but with that one story, and I've talked to John Paget about it too. He gave me a very good rundown of his interpretation of the story. I just it blew my mind. Like it was so different from anything I'd ever read. I couldn't tell if there was either a very heavy-handed like social commentary on it, a complete lack of social commentary on it, if it meant 10 different things that I thought it might mean, or if it meant none of them. It was just a weird ass story.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a story that was completely over my head, and I would love your thoughts on The Small People.
I don't, I'm with you. I don't know. I could not give you a rundown like John Patrick gave you. I haven't read it in a while. It's very far from fresh in my mind, but I just remember just the sheer difference between that and almost any other horror fiction you care to name. Um, yeah, it's just brilliant, and I think part of the brilliance is that you don't know. What's where is this going? What is he trying to do here? Is this metaphorical, or is this just to be taken at face value? I like fiction that leaves you with that kind of question, rather than something that's a little more straightforward. And that's one of the reasons that something like extreme and splatterpunk, while I can appreciate it and I like some of it, um, it doesn't do things to my brain that
Yeah,
that bother me and that make me go back and think about them. I mean, it can disturb me. It can titillate in some strange way. I'm talking about extreme and splatterpunk and stuff. It can revolt me, but I like stuff that just sets off fireworks. Like, what is happening here, and
yeah,
how is it so well expressed and yet so strangely obscure?
for sure.
Hmm.
The Do you know what I mean though when I say that there's stories that give me like a physical kind of reaction? Like the another one that did it for me is, are you familiar with Scott Nicolay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has this story called Eyes Exchange Bank,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
that is one of the few stories I've ever read more than I don't know how many times I've read it. Like
Right.
usually I usually read and watch everything twice if if I
Yeah.
really like it, just so I get that first once over, I take it in, and then the second one I really kind of pick it apart.
Yeah.
That's another story that like I don't know if there's another story that has creeped me out in such a visceral way than Eyes Exchange Bank, but I have no idea why. Like I don't get
Yeah,
why it scares me, and that is like the perfect story to me. And I
yeah.
love
Scott's
that
great
one.
at it. Scott sort of sneaks up on you with the horror.
Yeah,
He's a very skillful and strange writer. Definitely another unique, very unique voice. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
he's another one that I've read everything of his I can get my hands on. You're another
yeah.
one too. Everything of yours I've read. Gateways, Creeping Waves, the Omnibus. Uh, so you have another. The 2022 Omnibus is out now, or it's coming
It
out.
is. It's coming out. I should be getting a proof copy in the mail sometime within the next week or so. And we've already the printer and I have already noticed that they forgot my middle initial on the spine, so we already know one thing has got to get fixed. Uh,
Whoops.
but that's fine. That's a common error. Um, but yeah, it's going to look mainly like the first one did with the front cover of say the January issue, and then all of the interior, and then the back cover when you flip the last page, and then all 12 months of worth of chapbooks collected in this one limited, very limited hardcover. Um, yeah, and those are there are the people who subscribed to the chapbooks in 2022. The people who picked like the top level subscription, they'll receive one for free, and then beyond that, there are 50 available for purchase to the public, and we're down to 4 now. So, selling out of those pretty rapidly, which is good. You never know.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and the omnibuses have all the illustrations from the chapbooks, and it'll make 2023 interesting because there are no illustrations at all. So that'll be probably a little easier to produce than
Yeah.
the 2022, and I'm going into 2024 now, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, there'll be an omnibus for each year.
Awesome. That's awesome,
Yep.
man. Well, yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on here and talking to me a bit. I just there's I see you post on like Twitter and Facebook and stuff all the time, and I feel like there's so much stuff that we're on the level on, you and me.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, and it's
I
interesting. It's interesting when you're on the same level, the differences. That's sort of fun to talk about. So
for sure.
at some point we can chat about maybe I'll rewatch Zombies Halloween, and we can have a discussion about what you saw in it that I didn't, and vice versa. Or
Absolutely.
maybe I'll like it a little more next time around.
For sure, and I'm definitely gonna check out what was it, Whisper in Darkness by the
Yes.
HBO Film Society. Yes, I will for
Oh
sure
my god,
check
it's
that
so
out.
good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you can get a hold of that, I'm not sure. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but
Okay,
yeah, see if you can track down a copy.
for sure. All right,
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah.
One, who's the lady above your head?
That is the Queen, the Queen of
Okay.
England, who recently passed away. Uh, I was going through old letters and cards, and that was actually like a card, like a greeting card that my at the time my roommate gave me, I think, and I pulled that out, and my wife's like, "Oh my god!" and she tacked it up on the back door of the apartment. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
she hovers above me like a thought bubble.
I
It
like
just
it,
happened to
dude.
be where my work area is set up. So
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
And the second thing, where can people find you if they want to check more of your stuff out?
They can find me on Facebook at Matthew M Bartlett. They can find me at Twitter at Matt M Bartlett, and basically using the Google. Just Google my name with the middle initial. If you don't use the middle initial, you'll get like Republican strategists and footballers and sports commentators. But if you put in the M and the middle initial, you will get my website and my books and interviews like this one.
Awesome. All right. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me, man, and I will be in touch and talk to you soon.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, buddy.